Video hangout or
Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to them.
Right now for the weather.
What do you do?
I don't know if it's recording. I'm gonna assume it is.
I never
Bob says this works, and I'm kind of believing that because I looked through like all the docs. It's like, how do you record? You know, on there, there's like zero information about it.
you read all the
Yeah.
try it, but you
Well, that's the question: is whether I got enough or not. It didn't waste my time.
Can I feel my phone?
Well, I mean, it's podcasting. I'm not worried about that part, but I'm worried about saving it later.
Got it. Doesn't it automatically preserve?
I think it's supposed to. And I'll
I think it's reason
edit out this part of the video. I'm fully expecting, we've got the camera mounted on like this. Fully expecting some
Mostly project manager. Pretty good. I do stuff coding, some, experience. A lot better at that job. Just because I use more design. It's not more design over it. But I've been trying to pull away from great stuff. Right now, I'm actually having products. Working on like hack taking advantage of we have one center. We have
with you. Saw Jane back in the CS recruiter last week who was like, about like
Network data.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. They got a grant for that. I knew that. That's pretty cool. Like, keep that. Yeah, and they're really struggling with the students. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm still working on that thing because when they leave, most of them leave. And that thing is separate. You're gonna be like, hey, can you fix this shit?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to. Yeah, I'm really into like trying to grow this well. So around that time.
I'm not
just a program, right? Started getting really diverse with artists. The chains.
Yeah, it's on the slides, which he doesn't have up. So it's WFS.
Started out doing that in the first project.
It's gonna be like capital S, single dot, capital S,
Kind of program.
Oh my gosh.
I'm actually, I'll just do this.
So, yeah, Nick's been around, helping with that.
I stayed out of it. It was a helper, but I stayed out of it.
Screw it.
I think we can do a point again. We're gonna do start weekend in November. local officer. It was like mid-November. So we're gonna work on like having a whole week of entrepreneurial stuff. So it's gonna be really fun.
Start looking at that down.
All options that helps that, man.
Okay. I mean, we didn't want to do it again.
It's all politics. Yeah, totally. Which now that we've done it once, maybe it'll be
easier.
You helped set that up last year? We, friends, Matt and Eric have an ISP now. We gave them around 100 dishes to put on the slide. And,
She's okay.
they got set up, to it from the wall.
She wants to go through a rep, but she's not around. Yeah.
They're all fun.
I think it was like some watering happened. They were kind of not consistent. She gets really angry when she doesn't water consistently.
So much fun.
So.
Yeah, start ideas too. It's a great place to pick up a book whenever you grab something.
Yes.
Now I'm really excited. I'm really jacked up. Like, I just helped with starting to down for you.
Yeah.
Really motivated and excited.
She works in the admin office, so she's like, you call her UC. But then she gets gotten moved, so she's working like, she was 2 hours in the admin office, and then 5 hours in the admin office, and 1 hour in the admin office again. And all of the events get this place, so work her into that. So hard. Well, she wants to not do admin stuff. Events is better. There's nice people. Hey, can I give you something to give to your wife?
Yeah.
Well, she left it behind, so that's what it is.
Cool. All right, I'm Alex from there.
That way I won't have to worry about getting anything work.
Yeah. You about the Ruby band? Man, it's a good band.
Yeah, it was fun.
What's your date for that? You guys have a set date? Nice.
That's just minimum space. So I might change that.
Nice. Yeah, I'd like to help out however I can. It's gonna be good. This month's hard. My parents are down in Texas. I'm not my sister who's so I'm trying to figure out a couple times. But I'm having a lot of fun with my son too. Yeah, I'm jacked about all the stuff that's happening right now. Sorry, I'm going to do
You see that brewery over by
Chapman.
same way.
So were you, did you just get to watch all the presentations? Did you guys watch them, or are they?
It made me watch it. I wanted to watch like all four, but I don't want to watch 15 or 16.
Yeah, I mean, it want to show you, so a couple of the projects that we go into in the beginning round, so I couldn't figure out what they're doing. One of them's called Leg Up, and you can search Leg Up, you know, it's impossible. And the other one is Dungeons and Dragons, I can't. I have no idea what it's about.
So, yeah, that's another
It's like online, do you?
like to occasionally work, because it's got kind of
I wonder if it's kind of like Cards Against Humanity.
maybe.
You play that?
Oh, you want to
There's two sites now. X-Files. Yeah. online multiplayer before.
Right.
Yeah,
I've never played it on.
I'm a
You guys have an
game
office.
every Friday
Over
morning.
there, right now. And just all upstairs? Yeah. Yeah, we're good.
Really, I'd say I was good at it.
You're not good at doing it, not good at it.
I'm good at doing
I'm
it.
not good at doing it, I'm not good at it.
It's actually Matt Graney's fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 'cause he did a LAN party and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. Like, help me do it.
I got joined in the Facebook group for that.
Oh, the Hell in a Gamer group?
Yeah, 'cause I never did something like that.
Yeah. The guys that were doing the Maker Center here, just, you know, go over, Kyle, yeah. I think it's all about the libraries, you know, Maker Center, they're both.
They look pretty friendly.
Funding issues there. I mean, that's kind of the problem with anything you really want to do in this is, I mean, it's not.
Playing up there.
But I think we're getting this saturation where we're just getting it's like a makerspace you see it fancy.
It's not over there.
They got a little buzz. Yeah, probably do. Yeah.
So,
I always really want to go to one of those events.
Can you do it at work? Jen gets paid to do that.
I mean, I probably could do it,
So,
but I'm kind of to the work that's I'm doing.
yeah. Tell me you have to do your pay over an hour. It's like it's once a week at Montana, two startups and for 8 minutes each, but at that 20 minutes.
It's only an hour.
It's only an hour. You can just take an hour. Yeah, and it's a lot cooler than it used to be. They've got like I don't know, kind of like space office. Where they've got like CMD. It's every week. It's every Wednesday at 9 a.m. So Craven's coffee is fun too. So we have, you know, more coffee than we do. It's good coffee. They roast their own beans. So it's good.
You're not selling me on your copy. Sorry.
I think there's some tea there if you like tea. There's no alcohol. I think it should be 1 million. 1 million pints, you know. But whatever.
It's 9 a.m. somewhere.
When they stock, is that?
No, it's just I don't know. They have them all over the country now. We started out with Kansas City, kind of like the Google Fiber houses and stuff. Started weekend, built out for the mobile interfaces and started with that. Kind of all of the cool tech stuff that they all try to do. Support each other and what happens to them. Cool. I like looking at it. They have some.
There's big enough for startups in Missoula.
Seems to be, man. So far, yeah, so far. And it doesn't have to be like established artists. People just coming to get some feedback on their ideas. But so far, it's been kind of like established people who either have a beta or are just out of it. Let's say it's been a little game this week. You know, they're huge. They're one of Missoula's biggest companies. You guys.
Right. Well,
Yeah, so, yeah, it's happening now. I think it'll be a struggle to try to do it all year long, but I'm hoping they'll take breaks in the summer. Like, I don't want to go get what I can in the summer. I want to go down there or something. So.
are you working on that?
Yeah, I'm helping like with the tech stuff. So, you know, I've got meetings and everything.
I've been over there
Yeah, it's a lot different than it used to be. Mostly because there's some cool anchors, like Long Lows in there. The audience awards is in there. And, what's the company that does the IO creative whole so products? Anyway, there's a bio company. We're in there. So there's some cool stuff happening in there, and I mean that's really what they made. It's like in there, that cool stuff going on. So it started. It's taken a lot of turning the wheel. I think they finally hit it. Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited they're doing there. I'd like to see them spin off another. Hoping like they're going to build this new college and stuff up there. Out of Gordon Center, throw it out. So let's have some cool spaces. Like this is a great space. It'd be cool to have some community space where the text people are hanging out, the designers, filmmakers, you know. To try a little bit with like co-working centers. No one's ever had the funds to really have the space. And now that we've got Gigabit here in town, and I think that to co-working or hackerspace or something. I think we can really have build density around the relationship. Get a lot of people coming in want to come here and atmosphere. That's kind of what's going on in San Francisco and on other level. He's so perfect for something like that. You got like a more mixed use.
I never.
I was picturing the coffee shop downstairs.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Was it like
I'm trying to.
On top of all of the remodeling. Yeah, no, it's like, it's amazing.
I have a look at
You remember Xander? Did you ever watch Xander? He started like,
Yeah, it goes here.
he does.
Is that the address? I know.
That's it. He has like an Eclipse plugin, but there's a Vim plugin that makes clips, that does clips of things. So, all you do is
Yeah. I could be really exposed. You know, part of it like hot. Yeah, I mean, there's so many good ideas. Usually just squeezes a million dollars.
I think he's got a Eclipse open and then it somehow uses Eclipse.
Finally saw a sticker on a plane. Yeah. He did that.
No kidding.
Yeah, you know they have a fucking plane which I also read. Like a little sticker on the top. That's how I found it here. It's like,
I don't really know.
That's it. All of it.
That's another guy that never really uses.
that's it, like what we're talking about.
That's what we're learning tomorrow. Means that like, they're like actually bendable. Yeah, they're like super thin and super light. And apparently considered. So what we're trying to figure out. It's like
Really disconcerting for the passengers.
yeah. But apparently, like, you know, cuts down on everyone that's kind of I'm excited about that. Especially, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not the worst, but it's not. Sometimes it's we got voting buildings. Yeah, we have a voting. Someone should be better. It was just announced at the last job summit.
Oh, they're just opening a place.
Yeah, it's supposed to be new. I can't remember if it was going to be in buildings.
Stable was like 5.5.
Yeah, I think it was my space effort. Yeah.
We were running 5.6 too.
Yeah.
What we got?
Whoa.
I know. It's so exciting.
Oh, I better grab another second.
It's already 5.3, like 5.3.14.
You know, Patrick's there. He was,
Patrick, oh, it was there, yeah.
was it Black?
Yeah.
He just checked in 2 apparently. He said,
Oh, I see that.
Yeah, I was talking with one of the guys who was like support there.
I heard that about this guy too.
Yeah, it's like pretty super lame. But I was thinking he went over with this the other night and he was like, oh, he somebody next to you that was there for me. Sounds pretty
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's some abstract. It's melodic.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Slides.
I have an example of it. It's fine.
I'm sitting back
Getting
here.
it out of 5.
You probably should get it. Is that one more week?
That's like super
Maybe so.
awesome. I get to see something.
Or you can just buy it. You just buy it. Nick, have you met Joe?
Anyway, yeah.
That's the way we used to, but well, that's not a good thing, but.
Kind of works. Damn. Anyone else? Oh, yeah. Well, hey, so Google I/O, 20 days.
What do you guys use for your ID?
ID,
Development environment?
whatever people want, basically.
We use our favorite.
Yeah, whoops.
You mean for Dart, right?
Yeah. Start require.
Dartpad, man.
Dart pad.
It's online. It's like GPS Duel or something.
I just like that.
What was that?
Python.
Yeah, Python's pretty good. Yeah, we're in JetBrains. So.
Cool, man. Hey, welcome everybody. GDG Missoula. So hopefully everybody feels like a part of the GDG community. Anyway, welcome. Bookkeeping. So bathrooms over here, if you don't know, there's one in the front, one in the back. And beer and pizza, we've already had that. So help yourself, stand up like during the presentation. Don't worry about like get up, do your thing. It's a help yourself kind of situation. So help yourself. And put the Wi-Fi password here if you.
What about the fridge?
Fridge is.
Do we help ourselves to the fridge?
You can have a drink, sure. There's not much in there. Yeah. Some tea and stuff.
Some multi-food.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm expecting a fully stocked next time.
All right. Yeah, we gotta go shopping.
Okay.
We gotta go shopping. So cool. We've been hitting the first Thursday of every month, which we're trying to aim for the last couple of times. So that's awesome. And we're always looking for speakers or people to like present stuff. So Chris, you're kind of like in the queue.
Yeah,
For a talk. Awesome. Sweet. So yeah, if you guys have something you are really into, feel free to like just contact one of us or whatever, and we'll get you lined up. It's pretty
Does
cool.
the Google environment allow you guys to connect with people that you could bring in as speakers from Google or something like that occasionally?
You don't usually get a Googler unless you're over 100 people.
Mhm.
So if we have a bigger event like in the fall or something or whatever, if we get a big event, we can maybe pull a Googler.
Oh, yeah.
So it's always on my radar. But yeah, it's gotta be a big event.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, and the next talk is, again, awesome, first Thursday of the month. I believe it's, what day is it?
4th?
4th? Yeah, whatever the first Thursday of next month is. And that will be just after Google I/O, which I just took off the screen, and about Polymer. And if you haven't heard about Polymer, it's really pretty awesome. So today, sponsored by Workiva, so pizza and beer and the office space, so thanks Workiva. And today it's all about Dart. So show of hands, who has heard of Dart? Okay. Nice. Some people have heard of it. Who doesn't know anything about Dart? It's like, yeah. All right. Well, today is pretty intro, and I think it'll get people excited about it. I'm just going to kind of show off some of the language features, and hopefully you'll fall in love with the language. So we use Dart quite a bit at Workiva. We're going to build a lot of next-gen applications with Dart. So why is Dart great? Well, it's got a lot of sweet language features. These are kind of on bullet points here. It's super productive. It compiles the JavaScript, and it's got great performance, and it's got great tools. So I'm going to hit on that first one first. All the sweet language features, and a lot of sugar. So one thing that is really nice about Dart is it's got types, right? But they're optional. So if anybody's worked with .NET or Java or whatever, the types are very you've got strict typing. Dart is kind of focused on bringing people over a little bit from JavaScript land. So you are allowed to kind of prototype without types, and then you can add a type in if you want. So you can say this is actually an int, right? And then if you try to do stuff with a string, that's not going to work. You're going to get an error. But if you do stuff with an integer, cool, it works. So that's seems like a small deal, but it's a huge, huge deal. If you're just one dude at home, it's not very apparent why that's a big deal. But when you have a lot of teams, 5 people on a team, 100 teams, you got a huge code base. When you have types on there, they're not just int, they're custom types, custom classes that you've written, and you want to go find out what that is, command click through, and your IDE jumps to the definition. You can go and explore code. People from a static type environment IDE kind of know this already, but it's totally new for the web, and it's awesome.
Can you overload a function with different type inputs and it'll call each input based on what type you give it?
So not so much with the polymorphic, but you kind of don't really need to do that due to some other stuff. So you can have optional positional parameters, or you can also have named parameters. So you can say kind of a key value of named parameters.
There's also name constructors, so you can have different ways to construct an object. He's gonna get to that.
Cool. I don't know if I have any name constructor examples. I have a lot of code demos in here. Some of them are more entertaining than others. And I'll share the slides, and they all have this Dartpad link here, which will bring it out to this online kind of editor where you can see this code actually run. And I might jump to it on and off here a little bit, but let me see here. So in JS, this is kind of, it's a Steve Jobs kind of thing, oh, one more thing, right? If you pass in a string to something that is expecting, whatever, it's untyped thing, it'll just convert one to a string, and it'll put what you kind of expect in JavaScript. So it'll say one more thing, and then Dart, it won't work. So anyway, let's see. The best thing ever, classes, right? So JavaScript is kind of getting this now at ES6, but you already have this today, and this is kind of a theme with Dart. It's you have all these features today, and you can use them to be productive, and ES6 is kind of in catch-up mode. So here's a class, a person, and here's another class called Beardy, and yeah, so it's the best part. Dart has all these concepts of interfaces and mixins, but they're all just classes, right? So you don't have to keep track of all these different keywords. Should I define an interface and then I can't really instantiate it, or should I define whatever? Everything's just a class, and you can create a new class that extends the person, and you kind of mix in. It's got with Beardy, right? So it's a Beardy person, and one really popular person is Jeebus, and he's got sandals. And that's a public property, right? So you can say if you have an instance of Jeebus, you can say Jeebus.sandals and access this property. It's public. You can implement getters and setters and then access those things that way. And then you'll notice the constructor is just the name of the class, right? It's very terse. There's not a lot of function. There's a lot of extra keywords. It's very compact code. Let's see here.
Do you want to mention what perform miracle is there?
Perform miracle. I don't know. That's just a function that is abstract. So you'll see. That's why I have abstract class here. It's demonstrating that you can have an abstract class that you can instantiate. Thank you for reminding me. So there's no method body here. And so if you want to like implement this thing, you have to provide an implementation of this thing. So you can extend GBIS and then implement the miracle method. And nobody's actually ever implemented that except for him. So one thing about JavaScript, right? Who's done some JavaScript and like totally gotten bitten by this, the keyword this? Like we've seen some hands, right? Like you kind of think like, oh, it should be the thing that I'm inside, but it's never that. It's like an execution context, but you can like swap out the execution context. So it's kind of like doing this ridiculous backflip, right? So Dart has the same this in quotes. So here's a class of something, and if anybody gets this reference, I will give you a sticker. I have Dart stickers here. So I'm gonna walk through this real quick. Let me see here. So, so if you say like in a method, right, find hoodie, you're accessing the hoodies property, so this.hoodies will refer to the thing that you expect it to, and you don't really need it, right? So like you can say, oh well, I don't need to. It's like implied because it's lexical. It's like inside of this class, right? So you can just kind of drop it, and then you end up with just hoodies, and then it refers to the thing that you actually intended it to refer to. And then it's got a nice sweet shortcut in your constructor. So when you construct something, you can call it the type, which is optional again, and then this.hoodies, and that is a shortcut for saying like whatever you pass in, just assign it to the hoodies property. So instead of doing this, where you're like, oh, you passed in some holder variable, and then you have to assign it back to the property, like totally boilerplate code. Let's get rid of that. So way more short. So does anybody know what that's from? This example is based on? All right. So, search Google for I don't know what. Find the sweet hoodie. Might come up.
So I don't think this is in the talk, but like kind of expanding on the saying this, like you still have like closures inside of functions, so you can have. You don't have to do any of that weird JavaScript like binding crap to like pass in this context that you're in. Like you just have that, but you still can create a closure of like a function that's defined within that function that will increment. So if like find hoodie increments the number of hoodies. If there was like a local variable of like a local hoodies, like you could keep calling that new increment local to that function. So that's pretty cool too.
The IE.
Whoa.
It shouldn't be. Not this edge thing.
Okay, another, and I'm gonna kind of bash on JavaScript a little bit, but JavaScript for a while has not really had like a concept of libraries or packages or a package manager that's really sane. So the community has created many of these things, AMD and like I don't even know, like CommonJS and JSPM and I don't know, all these different solutions to this problem when it really should just be baked into the language, right? So libraries and imports baked right in. So you define this thing as a library and everything that's in here is in that library, magically enough. And if you want to use somebody else's code, you just say like, import that code. So the package is the package that you've defined. And then the path to the file inside of their library. You can also use like paths on your file system. So you can develop locally and just say like, oh, import this Dart file or import whatever. Let's see. I don't know. I feel like that's super easy, and it's totally welcome. One thing that's kind of sweet here, you'll notice in this example, is the person class. So you construct it with like this.name, and then when you construct a person, it'll assign it to name. And then we're overriding the toString method, and it's got this like $name here. And what that is it's called string interpolation. And when you print a new person, Rob, it actually prints my name, right? So it actually will look at the $sign and substitute that in. So it's kind of got templating, string templating built right into the language as well, which is a super powerful feature. Oh yeah, I just mentioned that. So arrow functions and interpolation. So ES6, again, getting arrow functions, but Dart has it today and has had it for some time. So this is a fun little example where you're defining a function, and this is a shortcut to defining a function, right? So you don't have to use the function keyword here. You just say like params, like what params this function will take. And then the arrow function is like the body of the function, right? So you're just going to return the string, and then the string interpolation takes care of the rest. And right, so if I call Loudify with check out my website, it returns the value, which is all capitals, and you know, the guy really, really adamant about checking out your website. This is how you sound if you use all caps, by the way.
I like how it actually says Packerville instead of.
Yeah, you sound like an ancient AARP. Okay, so JavaScript doesn't really have private variables, right? Like you can just get to anything. If it's a reference, you can get to it. Dart has a convention where anything that's prefixed with an underscore makes that thing private. So again, avoiding keywords and like keyword overloading and like, oh, I can't hold this all in my brain. It's a convention in JavaScript anyway. You're going to put an underscore, like, oh, it just means don't touch this. But in Dart, like, you can't actually get to that thing, right? So you can't get on the private chat. So this executive class has a private jet method or property, sorry. And then if I instantiate one, I can't get to the jet from here. So it's actually like officially really private. In JavaScript, you could still get to that property. So pretty cool for defining libraries and having internal implementations, and then shipping it off to consumers, and they can't get at your internal bits.
I think it's also worth pointing out, like in the executive class, like even though like things can be, like if you don't define your types at all, like that's cool, but up there, like private jet is actually defined as explicitly as a dynamic type, which is kind of a cool thing as well, because like you're communicating that you actually want it to be dynamic. It just like happened to turn out that way. Anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah, so this is like var. You can put var or dynamic or whatever here that indicates it'll take whatever type.
For like error handling, what would happen if you like call a method on an object that didn't exist? Is there any kind of feedback in that?
There is. That's an excellent question. So if you call a method that's not there, you'll get a runtime error. If you don't do anything, if you just have a class and you call it, it'll result in a runtime error. If you're in an IDE or whatever and you try to call it, you're typing that method out, you're going to get a little like squiggly saying this method doesn't exist. You can, however, override like in Ruby-ish kind of land, like you can override no such method in Dart and handle that this thing doesn't exist. And so there are like entire classes of libraries that the object has nothing on it, but it just overrides no such method. And then it does stuff like magically because it just like pretends like those properties are there. So it's like, oh, I tried to call like some method, and then it's like, well, what method did you try to call? Oh, okay, I can make that work. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I had another question, but it escaped from me. So.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is a small thing, but it's kind of nice. Method cascades. So it kind of makes anything chainable. So again, JavaScript land, you have an object, you got to create it, and then you got to call a bunch of methods or like set properties or whatever. And it's kind of repetitive, like repeating my object, my object, my object. And so over in Dart, it's got like a lot of sugar on this. You can just say like, oh, my object, and then the dot dot means like go back, like dot dot directory. It goes go back to the original object you just created. You don't have to repeat my object over and over again. You can just keep calling add, set, do, whatever. And it's really handy for just like doing a one-liner or like kind of doing stuff real quick. You can like create a thing and then call a method or set a property here, and it all does it in one line. So again, a little sugar that's kind of really nice. Just kind of makes things shorter and nicer. Again, ES6 has promises, which if you've never heard of promises, a future is a promise, and a promise is kind of like a promise for a result that will be provided sometime in the future. So it's like, I can give you this object, but there's really no value there. And then at some time later in the future, I'll fulfill my promise and I'll give you my object. And I'll be like, oh, oh, the answer is actually 5 or whatever. So I have this kind of ridiculous example of using features. So you'll see like I've named the functions costly query and expensive work and lengthy computation. And assume those are some asynchronous thing that take a long time or do a lot of work. So you might go over the network and do an AJAX call, or you might, be doing a lot of processing and you don't really want to hold up the main thread, right? So you call costly query and you get this future object back. And this result future doesn't have a value yet, because this thing is actually like running asynchronously or running whenever. And then whenever, like .then, whenever this thing is then done, I'll get the callback basically. So it's a shorter way to do callbacks. You'll get the value when it's finally done. And then I call another function that is expensive. So I can chain these things together. I can say like when this first thing, and then do the second thing, and then do the third thing, and then I'm finally done. And then I can also chain on this thing to catch any errors that happen in this chain of promises. Let's see. You can take this kind of one step further, right? Like, it's asynchronous, like, maybe I just want to, like, tell the program, like, just wait for it to come back. I don't want to say, like, go through all of that kind of then, and then if you have a lot of things that are nested, it kind of gets into, like, the triangle of doom. So I have a sandwich here, and, like, you see this guy over here just waiting. So I have a function here that's called make a sandwich. It takes a while to make a sandwich if you haven't noticed. And it returns some future sandwich, and it's marked as asynchronous. So first I print out that I'm like, hey, I'm starting to make a sandwich. And then I start this. I have this new completer object, which is, if you've ever used JavaScript, futures, and this is like a deferred. And so you can say like, you deferred. Anyway, just relating through. And then what I do is I wait like 3 seconds, and then I'm done making my sandwich. And then I return this feature out, right? So this return actually happens as soon as I call the function. And then 3 seconds later, my timer fires, and I complete the sandwich. So my main method, which you haven't seen up until now, I don't think, if I remember correctly, is where the program actually starts, right? So if you run this on the command line, Dart has a main method, just like a lot of actual other programming languages. And we've also marked this asynchronous too, because we're waiting, right? So I'm just gonna wait for this make sandwich to return, and then I throw in a then as well. And when the sandwich is done, then I'm gonna eat it. And so let's see. Oh, sandwich is done. He's a happy cat, right? All right. So streams, right? This is think about like Unix or Linux pipes, right? This is, you can put anything, like just pipe it to the next process. And so streams are kind of like, think about that, right? You've got like all this stream of events or data like coming down, and you just have to like consume them as fast as you can. That's what I was thinking of when I made this slide deck. So they're composable, they're filterable, right? So you can have this stream of data, and you can pipe it through like grep, right, to filter stuff out. You can do the same thing with Dart. You can do like a dot filter on the stream. You can do you can split it. You can send them off in different directions. So it's a good mental model to kind of think about streams as like a pipe of events or pipe of data. So I just have a quick little 2 different ways to kind of listen to a stream. So if we ran this main method, one thing I want to point out is all like DOM events and all events in Dartland, like when you're writing a web app, are streams, right? So on click, on resize, like whenever anything happens, you have this stream which starts out initially empty, right? And when you resize the browser, it throws a resize event on that stream, and I listen to it and I get it. So all these, and it's really nice. Like, so you can like filter these things out or send it to different handlers. You can listen to it multiple times. So right now we're listening to like window.onResize. So whenever the browser resizes, I'm gonna listen to the stream, and whenever an event happens, I get my function that gets called, it passes me the event, and I print the resize event. And this is a different kind of way to do the same exact thing. So this is the stream version of waiting, right? So you're saying await for some event in this stream, and it just magically works. Same thing as the top, just on the bottom. I get my event, and then it calls my function. So it's really, really cool to have these asynchronous structures built into the language, and you can write them like they're synchronous. This is just a for loop, right? But really, this thing could be happening like 5 minutes apart, or like, you know, whatever. This stream could be anything. The stream could be like, oh, read from a file, read from your web server. Could be like, oh, I got a new request. So here's your request from a client, and you're just writing a for loop. You'd be like, oh, for every request, like handle it, and you've written it like a for loop, not like some ridiculous, you know, asynchronous thing. So pretty powerful stuff. And it's built into Dart, usable today. One thing that's amazing is deferred library loading. And this is like, when I heard about this, this is like just blew my mind, because the amount of work we have to do to do this in, I don't know, JavaScript or anything else is not trivial. And all you have to do is like declare your library, like a regular old library. You just make a bunch of code. And then when you import it, your client imports it, you just say like, oh, I'm gonna defer that. Don't load it right away. And then you give it a name as optional, some optional feature in your application, right? So I just have a stupid little command line app that just like, you know, it loads that thing right away. But like you can imagine wiring this up to like in your web app. Say you've got like some feature that it's optional, it's not used a lot. So you don't really want to pay the penalty to load all this JavaScript up front. You might be like, oh, well, when I click this button and it loads up the permissions editor dialog that I don't really use that often, I'm going to go load the JavaScript at that point. And so when you click that button, or even when you hover over the button, you can call the library.load_library. And so you can decide when you want to load this library, and it'll hit the network and load all the JavaScript it needs. And you get this, you know, this feature back, and that library is then ready to use, and you can go ahead and use your feature. So notice the one thing I didn't have to do, right? Like I didn't have to figure out how to package my JavaScript. Be like, okay, well, I'm going to package these things. I didn't make a decision about any of that, right? Like I'm going to put main.js over here, and oh, but it's actually dependent on this, so I have to package these together. And then like the feature and over here is like it's different JavaScript, but it actually uses 5 other libraries, but they have dependencies of their own, so I got to like do all that. None of that. I used 2 things. I just marked it as deferred, and then I call load. And when I deploy that, like it always works. So that is just mind-boggling to me. I think it's awesome.
I've got a question.
You're great.
So like with that, I could see if you had a large application, you might have like a section of that you want to do deferred loading on. That could include a whole bunch of different packages. Then when Dart compiles down to JavaScript, is it going to compile? How do you say like compile all these to like one thing to load, or like with this syntax, it kind of indicates like optional.dart is just like one big package that I'm going to load.
Right.
Can you like do the code splitting with?
It'll figure out like what's needed. So it'll walk the dependency tree of its library and pull in everything it needs. And say you're pulling in 3 or 4 different deferred libraries, but they have common dependencies. It'll actually break things out to the right amount of pieces. So that if you pull in, you know, library A and it depends on, you know, C, it's going to pull in A and C. And then when you say, oh, well, give me B, and B also depends on C, it doesn't have to load C because it's already got it, but it'll load B. And it does all that splitting for you with like a minimal amount of JavaScript bundles.
Okay, so it just figures out what
Yeah.
script file, what
Right.
JS files you need.
Yep. So since you have a main method, you have a definite way that you enter the app. It basically like walks your entire app, and 1, it gets rid of code that you didn't ever use in your app, and 2, it can figure out exactly how things on the entire dependency tree, and it builds things in a way that are optimized. It's crazy. So yeah, so Dart, those are like some of the sweet language features, and there's more there. I think kind of Tom mentioned named constructors, which I didn't touch on, and like factory constructors, and you can do all that. I didn't really have demos for that, but we can get into that in kind of future topics. So moving on, Dart has great tools. Well, these kind of look a little old, so actually these tools are more powerful, right? So it supports lots of IDEs. Any old editor, text editor, use Vim, Emacs, whatever. WebStorm, which is like an IntelliJ product, they have a lot of different flavors of IntelliJ. You know, PyCharm, WebStorm, I don't even know.
PHP Storm.
PHP Storm, Everything Storm. What whatever. Dart editor is kind of like an Eclipse-based like trimmed down version that they ship with the Dart SDK to get you started. I think they're kind of moving away from this, and they're going to move to WebStorm as the default. And so we'll see how that plays out. But I think WebStorm is honestly like much better. You can use it with Sublime Text, and then the StartPad project, which I've linked all the source code to in these slides. So we'll take a look at that in a second. Excuse me. So some other like tools that you get right out of the box when you download Dart SDK is obviously the Dart command line. So like you can run a program. That's awesome, right? So when you run Dart something, and the something app, I remind from you remember from before, it prints out so print out. It's pretty straightforward. You can also then compile your app to JavaScript, right? So Dart to JS, something.dart, and then the output file, and then you can run it in Node, and it does the same exact thing, which is pretty cool. Just how we had the libraries and packages, it's got a great package manager. If you've ever used NPM or Bower or any of those kind of client-side package managing things. Pub is similar. I think it's a little superior. It's got some nice stuff about it. These are some of the commands you can run with it. So you can pub build basically like packages up your app, runs Dart to JS, makes all the distribution assets. Pub serve will serve your web app or whatever. Get upgrade and downgrade will go and get all your dependencies. And you might be asking like, how do I define where do I define like where my dependencies are if I'm using other people's stuff, right? So there's called a pub spec, and this is what I think about when pub spec YAML. I'm like, okay, pub, yeah, I don't know, it's my visual. But so pub spec YAML is like the package.json or bower.json. It's where you define information about the library or the project you're creating. So the project name, Logcat, the version, my name, the author, and then a list of dependencies, right? So these are dependencies that have to ship with my project, and these are dev dependencies that I use during writing the application that aren't shipped with my project. I guess I use a vacuum to kind of stretch out the long cat. I don't know. You can also do Git imports, right? So just how we had import with a path name. So you can put path names in here. You can put Git URLs. You can put the pretty much. Well, I guess that's it. But a lot of different things in here. So you'll see, I'll just put in the Git colon and then the URL, and then later on some file I can just import that and off to the races. So you can, yeah, go ahead.
Does like Google or someone run a repository that you get all your packages from and publish them to? Like
there is a pub server, yes.
Okay.
You can run your own pub server internally if you want. You can just go directly to Git, and you don't really need a server. I'm not like, really sure what you get by running your own pub server because there's already one there. If you have private private code, it's easier just to go right to a Git URL, I would say.
When I was getting started with Dart, I kind of got confused between like pub spec and importing. So pub spec is just about like the packages and getting them downloaded. Like you can have a whole bunch of dependencies and pub will download them, but until you're like importing them into your code, like it doesn't mean anything. But you do need both. So Rob was talking about being able to like import from a local path. You can also install via pub local packages as well on your development process.
Do you always use version numbers within the pub spec to specify what you depend on, or can you use like commit hashes or?
Here? Yeah, I believe you can use like hash, the whole hash code or a tag name or a branch name or something.
And then there's like a keyword of any, so if you don't care about the version, you can just put that in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not latest or something, but yeah, whatever. But there's a little caveat with like if you use a branch or something, and you put like a branch name in here, like my sweet feature, and then you pub get it, it'll download that branch, and then you like somebody else pushes some stuff to that branch, and then you're like, oh, pub get again. Well, it doesn't get it because it's already got it like cached locally. So you have to do pub upgrade, and that'll like force it to go to the network and get the latest version.
Yeah, do you know, I pretty much always pub upgrade anymore, like, why would you want to get instead of upgrade? I haven't been able to figure it out.
It's a great question, honestly. I don't know. If you,
Maybe if you don't
it's
want-
always gonna go over the network though, right? So maybe you want to save some network.
Or maybe like you don't want the rugby flood under your feet. Or like you added a new dependency, but you don't want to upgrade stuff, maybe?
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. If you don't want to upgrade everything, I guess you can still pass the package name. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, and there's a downgrade as well. So like if you upgraded and you got new versions and it was like, oh, I broke my app, like go back down. So it's kind of handy.
Is there a search feature?
There is. I think you can
It's just pub.dartlang.org and then
online.
Oh, online.
Yeah.
Can't do like a pub search.
None of the command line, no. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. There is a separate tool called Den, which does a lot of the management of that kind of stuff. So you can do like a search with that. But yeah, it's not built in a pub. I don't know why. That's a good question. We talked about that. Hey, some more tools. So Dart format has a very very cool way to like just format your code. It's got a nice like code convention right on the website, and I have to say the website is fantastic as far as documentation and like having a strong opinion about the format of your Dart code. So I don't want to start any flame wars, but 2 spaces. Those. And when you're on Dart format, it's just like boom, format your code. No matter if it's like minified or all in one line or whatever. Again, with the hoodie, you guys are gonna have to look this up.
Is it a bowling diagram?
No.
Okay, go and speak.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell you. You gotta look it up. I got stickers. So Dart Analyzer is kind of the tool that there's a Dart Analyzer server which will analyze your code and then spit out like anything that's wrong with it, right? So it does all that stuff that an IDE does kind of like behind the scenes, but it's a separate project, right? And so this actually enables that long list of IDEs. So the Analyzer server is like kind of chilling, and then it'll serve this information up to Sublime or to whatever IDE, and then it can use that information to like provide all that, you know, errors and IntelliSense and stuff to whatever IDE. So it's free for like whatever IDE to build that in. Observatory is the profiler for Dart apps. So it's kind of like the Chrome DevTools, but for Dart, right? I just took a random screenshot of some app that I had, and it just kind of shows you like a breakdown of stuff. You can do all the same stuff you can do in Chrome DevTools, where you can see like you can go and debug and, you know, start changing stuff on the fly. You can see the hierarchy of classes, how they're defined, you know, how much CPU things are using. I apologize, this font is really tiny. How memory is allocated and what's on the heap and all that stuff. So it's super powerful. It allows you to connect to a running web app or a running server somewhere. You can use it for command line apps, servers, whatever. It's really, really cool. Yeah, I looked at the docs in the slides. So. Dartium is basically Chrome with the Dart VM like hacked into it. So you can run Dart as JavaScript, or you can run Dart as Dart in the Dart VM. The Dart virtual machine is kind of targeted toward command line apps and for like server apps. So it runs faster on those situations. And then in the browser, it's shipped as JavaScript. So that's all I have to say about that, really. Dart docgen, right? So like as you do your JavaScript, or sorry, as you do your Dart, and if you've ever written, you know, any language whatsoever, like you document your code, hopefully, and tell people what it is. And Dart docgen will parse all your code and generate some really sweet documentation. So it's got, you know, your package name and some information about it, your comments, and you can even put Markdown in there. You should see like the hashes and stars and stuff, like, you know, formatted your stuff. Talks about all your properties and everything. So you don't have to do too much. You just run generate docs, and it just does it. It's pretty cool. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. All right. Blood sugar level dropping. Everybody still with me? Cool. So this is quick. Just want to emphasize, there's tons of libraries built right into Dart. So it's like super batteries included. You have everything you need from, you know, streams, futures, all all types of math, asynchronous stuff, HTML, IO is for like command line apps and servers, so you can like read from files and pipes and or network and all that stuff. You can convert, so Dart convert is like JSON, UTF-8, do file conversions and type conversions and all that. And Dart mirrors, so you can do reflection like Java and kind of say like, this class, you can find out information about it, like what are the methods and what's the constructor look like and what types does it take and all that. So it's all just built in Dart core, like, boom, you get it all for free. And then there's tons of external packages on Pub, and all in all, it's like a rich ecosystem. So what's next? There's a website. I encourage you to check it out. There's a code lab if you guys want to like really try out some Dart. And it's 3 R's letter because it's a pirate theme, so Dart. And Dartpad is pretty sweet. I want to bring it up now while I got this going. So that's the end of the slides, but I want to pull up the Dartpad here. If I can find a cool one here. Where's my, what am I doing?
Oh, there was one.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, it's hard to interest. Okay, so here's Dartpad, and I've zoomed it way in. You can it's a website, but you can zoom it, whatever. It's awesome. So you can write some Dart. You can write HTML, CSS. It's got it's like JSPN or whatever, but you can write your Dart there. And, oh, it already ran. We'll run it again. So you'll see it immediately starts kind of a sandwich, and it starts making the sandwich, and then it waits 3 seconds, and this is text that was doing. That was our example from before. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool, right? And then here's some cool stuff. You're going around, you're doing your stuff. As you go over stuff, like my cursor's on future, it brings up the documentation for future. That's awesome. It tells me all about it, how to use it. I don't know, I think it's great.
It's great.
And then I can do let's see, what do I got here? How about I go up here? And then, oh yeah, IntelliSense on the web. Yeah. So I can complete it with a value, whatever. No sandwich for you. So you can do that. You can
Are semicolons optional?
they are options. So you see, you got highlighting. It highlights the params. That's pretty cool. You'll see
Which bar side camera?
You're crazy. As you have an error code, it pops up the errors. So this is like running the analysis server somewhere on a server, and then it pipes that Dart analyzer input to the web. You can see what's wrong with your code. It runs, cool. Yeah, so that is Dartpad. You can also go over here and share it. Boom, and it creates a gist and a URL, so you can share this with your friends. Those are all the links in the docs or in the presentation. So feel free to poke through the things and kind of see all the different code that was presented tonight and run it if you want. Anyway, so that's about it. If you want to hang around, have some more beer, and play with Dartpad and kind of try your hand at some Dart,
Doesn't allow for
be around.
multiple people to be working on the same code.
It doesn't collaboratively edit. I don't think so. We could try. What happens if you go to the same URL? I don't know.
I'll try it.
Tweet that out.
Everybody do it at once.
You were on the sandwich, right?
Oh wait, you have the slides, so you can. This works, I'll be.
Anything? No.
No?
Might be a bit of a security flaw, and you gotta just go
That would be sweet.
agree.
So one thing it doesn't do, it's kind of annoying, it doesn't save it to your own GitHub account. Just puts it to an anonymous gist, which is kind of annoying. But it's still pretty sweet.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean,
great way to try out Dart, without having to download anything. You just fire it up, type some Dart in and see what happens. There's also a little link down here at the bottom to jump right to the API documentation. So you can go to the website and check out all the stuff. So these are all the packages that come with Dart, in a built-in. So you got HTML package, And I did want to show you one real quick thing in here. So, oh man, I can't read this. So you have like window and document, right? Load it. Yeah, so this is the same like document in JavaScript, right? You can like document, append node, you can, you know, query, selector, all, you can do all the same like methods you can in a document. It's got all types of really nice stuff there. So you don't really need jQuery, right? Like, don't use jQuery, please. You've got Dart. It's all built in. Also, you don't need to use like Modernizer or like feature detection, right? Like, it's all built in. So if we do, take a look at like the touch event. Let's see if this brings it up. Yeah. Where is it? Yeah. So touch event is a static Boolean property supported. So like, you don't have to do your like detection if touch event in window or whatever it is in JavaScript. You just be like, oh, touch event not supported, and that's true or false. Like it does all this detection for you, and just like these.
You still have to polyfill it yourself?
What's that?
Do you still have to polyfill it yourself?
No, if you use this, it'll include whatever it needs to like make it happen. So that's one beautiful thing about this is like it only includes the JavaScript that you actually need. So as you write your code in Dart, it walks your code and only generates the JavaScript that you've actually used. So you can include this giant HTML library. If you don't use any of it, like you're not going to get that in your output. If you use one thing just to test to see if something is supported, it's just going to have that. And then all these things for like strings and futures and things that don't really exist in JavaScript today, it includes all the like polyfills or all the code that's needed to make it work. So you don't have to worry about like including polyfills yourself manually or anything. That's it. I think. Who's excited about Dart now?
What any examples of how this is changing things at Google and how it's being received, and then what's the adoption on it right now?
Well, actually, they just had a Dart summit.
The first one, right?
Yeah, the first one. It's like was it last week, I think. So internal to Google, like they have probably I don't know. It's less than 100 and it's more than 50 engineers working on Dart. I think it's like 70 or 80 engineers working on this. Everything from like you can run Dart and manage VMs. So there's like containers that you can run on Google Cloud for Dart and run on a Dart server. They're working on Dart for Android, so Dart for mobile. That's pretty sweet. They are using Dart. They rewrote all of basically the thing that makes Google money, Google Ads. They are using Dart for that. So that's a pretty big, commitment to Dart. Let me see what else.
You know that those presentations are online for the Dart Summit?
They sure are. Yeah.
There's actually a presentation by a Workiva employee at the Dart Summit about how we're using Dart Workiva.
Yeah. So I will share out the link to the playlist for all the talks from the Dart Summit. It's really, really good information in a lot of those talks. I will share the slides from tonight.
Slides are shared on the GDG Missoula.
Way ahead of next week. Yeah, so.
So what about finding the sweet hoodie?
Oh boy. Do we need to watch that?
I mean, I was in a video.
Yeah.
And I was trying to crack the Google and figure out what it was.
There's so many sweet hoodie results, it's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Hoodies that get you high. What? Wow.
Yeah. Okay, we can totally stop recording now.
No idea. All right.